Everyone in my family is against me. My wife left me 3 months ago. Now she's begging me to come back. And I said no. And this is why. My name's Mr. Reddito. I have a very interesting story for you today. It comes complete with an update. Then we're going to hop into the second story of the day, which also has an update. I hope everyone's having an amazing day. Let's get right to it. 7 years ago, I got married to the girl of my dreams, Denise. We've been dating for 2 years before that, and it was like a dream come true. That changed after our marriage. After our marriage, she constantly started feeling down and out of it. And eventually, I got her to go to a doctor who sent her to a therapist. And from there, we found out she had depression to do with things from her past, and she was trying to forget. I decided to be as supportive as I could be. I took care of most of the housework, despite working 40 hours a week, and told her to just get herself in order. And if she needed to talk to me more, I would be there for her. That was 6.5 years ago. Before she left, she was still depressed. She basically only lays in bed and complains. She does nothing. We had no intimacy, no sex, no cuddles, no going out. My entire day was filled with work and housework. Day in and day out, I worked my ass off. Came home to a mess of a house and started cleaning. Starting dinner and so forth at the end of the day, I was exhausted, and all I could expect was for Denise just to unload more of her trouble on me and complain about herself, me, and everything around her. I could not even hang out with my buddies to get away from it all, as she would relentlessly call me, saying she was scared and everything, so I also had no social life. Not that I had time for it anyways. But despite it all, I pushed through, hoping that sooner or later she would break out of it, and we could be a proper life together. As I loved her, and they say for better and worse, and this was quite clearly the worst. Possibly the worst it would ever be. 4 months ago, she got a new therapist, and 3 months ago, that therapist suggested she needed time away from me as her depression started when we married. So I may be the cause of it. The moment she told me I was crushed, I started doubting myself, blaming myself, even worrying, but beneath it all, this creeping sense of having done everything for her, having sacrificed years of my life as a cash cow and a servant for her just to lay in bed and this is my thank you. Oh, it's my fault now. But I rejected that feeling, trying to talk through it, but she decided to leave and stay with her mother, saying she needed time away from me and that I may be the cause of her depression and so forth. Honestly, the entire argument's a blur in my head. I spent the next month when she moved out calling her family, and begging, basically humiliating myself just to get her back, apologizing for everything I may have done wrong. Honestly, I was close to ending it all, as I was so hopeless at this point. But that month passed, and as it passed, I couldn't help but feel relieved. I came home and it was quiet. I can indulge in my hobbies, which I've had not done in years. The place was not a mess every time I came home. I could finally relax. And 2 months in, I even realized I could hang out with my buddies again, grabbing a beer, enjoying life. And slowly I started to realize that I've been miserable this entire time. Slowly, that turned into more and more realizations, before I realized I honestly just did not love her anymore. I felt like my youth was wasted away. I could do much, much better than this. I felt like I was a caretaker of a handicapped old lady. Hell, I still looked good, and as I went out, I started once again gaining back my old confidence. Women would even flirt with me. I felt wanted, even though I never really flirted back. After all these realizations, I suddenly got a call from my wife, saying she made a huge mistake. She was sobbing her eyes out and how she was an idiot taking the therapist's words as a fact, and how much she loved me. For a moment, I wanted to say yes, please come back, but I couldn't. I just blurted out and said to her she left me. I was done with the relationship. I told her I would get divorce papers, and I told her I had wasted enough time as it was, and this final action of hers was the nail in the coffin. After that, I just dropped the phone and started crying for a bit before turning in and feeling liberated. The issue now is that everyone in my family is telling me I'm making a mistake. I should take her back, I owe it to her to try and make it work. Marriage is not always fun, etc. The thing is, I never had fun in this marriage. I can't remember the last time I had fun, and it wasn't miserable. We are both young and fit, and we never go out. Hell, the last time we had sex is over a year ago. All I am to her is a freaking servant. As it seems, I'd rather live alone than spend one more hour taking care of her. But on the other end, I do doubt myself. Am I really dumping someone that's depressed? I feel horrible about it. I feel like a failure. I just need advice. I really hope that OP takes his own advice and does not break into the criticism his family's giving him. It seems like he took care of this girl for 6 years. I don't think much is ever going to change. I hope she does get out of her depressive state, but it doesn't look good for now for their relationship. I'm excited to see what this update has. Drop your thoughts down below, or if you've ever been in a similar relationship as this story. I would love to see your shared comment. Let's see what this update's about. I ended up having a really good think about my entire situation, trying to weigh out whether I would be able to give her another chance to begin with, as despite my post would give away was actually something I struggled with. I was in a bit of an emotional mess after all, and honestly, I sort of lacked control over my emotions. As you might have noticed in some of my responses, sometimes I seemed nostalgic, forgiving if not, and nice. Other times I seemed vengeful, resentful, and hateful. I will admit off the bat that this is all me. And like I told some people in messages, I was and still am not in the best place of emotions. But I've been working on getting my own emotions under control the past few days, and I can say I am in a better place than I was a week ago. But it will certainly take some more time for me to recuperate from all this. Now, off to what people were really likely looking to see. What ended up happening this week that made me decide to make an update? Well, after all the thinking, I decided regardless of what course I would be taking, as some people suggested, it would be my decision and my decision alone, not the decision of my parents, her parents, friends, or people of the internet, mine alone. A decision I would be living with until the end of my days. So, I decided I would inevitably end up regretting it all if I did not at very least talk to my wife and get some closure. So that is exactly what I did. 2 days ago, I decided to invite her to our home and talk about what us, our relationship, or what I would be doing going forward. Her depression and so forth, basically just get it all on the table. Now, it would be impossible to narrate this entire conversation, and honestly, it was about some very personal stuff, so I would not even want to if I could. So I will instead try to break it down and give summary of sorts. We ended up discussing our entire relationship. I must admit it was very awkward and confronting as it was about a lot of stuff. Myself in particular had bottled up for so long. It was very hard for me not to start yelling. I told her I was exhausted, I told her everything we've been trying to obviously just hasn't been working. I told her I felt like a doormat. I told her she was not the person I married. I told her these 3 months have been liberating for me, and I was tired of all of it. I told her I felt like she wasn't doing anything to help herself. She was not doing anything around the house. Her marriage is supposed to be a partnership, but I felt like I was basically married to myself, and that I was the only partner in the relationship, essentially. I unloaded the stuff I have been feeling for years. I told her I had a hard time not regretting the day I married her at this point, and while it obviously really hurt her to hear, she told me she knew. She knew I was unhappy. She knew she's been anything but a partner. She knew she was horrible about it all, but she felt like whatever she tried, she always ended up fearing getting better, getting demotivated to do anything, and that when she left, she almost felt like she had burdened me enough, that it just wasn't for her, but for me. But that she went about it wrong and ended up blaming the therapist as an easy way out. While it was true the therapist had guided her in so many ways towards this decision, the decision she made was for the right reasons, but the explanation she provided was tailored to her, not me, which was disregarding the therapist's advice entirely. She said she felt guilty about it all, and that guilt was just making her psychological state even worse. She said she hated seeing me going to work, coming home exhausted, and having to clean everything up, until I just passed out, essentially. But she started admitting a lot of stuff and apologizing for a lot of things in our relationship. She said her time away made her realize how much I mean to her, and how much she took for granted, and that she should have done better a long time ago. To which I told her, I felt like I've been enabling her essentially. While I had tried to keep her to her medication and all that, at the end of the day, it was always me picking up after her, which probably made it easier for her just to slip back up into doing this again. Well, after hours and hours upon talking, we ended up hugging for what seemed like an hour, before going back to talking, and she basically said she understood if I would not take her back. She understood if I do not trust her to get better. She understood that I was tired. But she asked me to give her one more chance and she would do anything for it. I have to admit, my mind immediately wanted me to go to the obvious option, which was not taking her back, not giving her a chance, but honestly, in this discussion, she was the person I was once in love with. She seemed to take ownership of things, seemed different somehow. But I also knew the risk coming with taking her back, and honestly, I was not about to pull another Hail Mary. So I told her I would be willing to give it a shot, but it would not be like before. Not at all. I told her she would have to prove she was going to put in the effort first, before we could even begin. Firstly, I told her she had to get a part-time job. I don't care what sort of job, whether it's waiting tables, at a clothing store, or some company. It is irrelevant, as long as she made sure to go every single time she was supposed to go, looked presentable when going, and made sure she did her best and said job. Secondly, she knows I like going to the gym. As such, she should be going with me at least 3 times a week. Get in shape, get some exercise in, but most of all, be busy in a healthy way. Thirdly, she's going to help her parents around the house while she stays there. No more sitting in her room along with all her thoughts, groceries, dishes, vacuuming, whatever. She was going to make an effort doing it every single day. Fourthly, as some people suggested, we were going to go on a date once a week. No more escaping, not wanting to go outside, feeling self-conscious, no more excuses. And fifthly, we were going to do couples counseling. I know we tried before, but we will try again. 6th, she is going to go to a new therapist and not lie about anything anymore to what the therapist tells her. Number 7, if the therapist suggests medication, she's going to take them every time she's supposed to take them, and I will keep them with me and she will take them in front of me. No more forgetting. No more taking them, no more complaining, and if there are issues with them, we will try different ones, but regardless, she's going to stick to it. I told her once we were doing all that, we can go to the next stage of repairing our relationship. But until she does them and keeps them up for a good few months, there's not a single chance I will continue our relationship. Well, guys, to my surprise, she actually agreed. And to my even bigger surprise, despite it only have been 2 days, she was actually helping her mother and father around the house yesterday and has been looking for jobs. Her dad also said she does seem a lot more cheerful. Now I know there's a long road left, and I know there's a good chance this won't work out, and that I should not cheer too early, but honestly, I'm hoping I get my wife back. I felt I owe it to myself to at least allow her this one last chance. Call me an idiot for giving her this chance, but, well, perhaps I am an idiot. So I don't disagree with him giving her another chance. I just hope that she can actually change and that something's different this time. There was a comment that I noticed and it says, "Right now you are awake and realize how bad it's been." There's nothing wrong with giving her a second chance. Just remember how you feel now. Write yourself a reminder on Google Calendar to reread these posts every 6 months. Use that as your baseline, and if you're not as happy or a lot happier, then you know things are slipping again. I think that's great advice to continuously stay on track of it and see if things change. What do you guys think of this update? I would love to hear it in the comment section below. Tell me, do you think OP should have given her a second chance or said, you know what, I was so much happier by myself, I need some alone time? Drop your comments below and we're about to hop into the next story. If you're new to the channel, smash that like button and consider subscribing as it's the best way to support me. Here's story number 2. I'm a 25-year-old female. I have a 2-year-old son from a previous relationship. After I gave birth, I was asked about birth control, which I said, yes, please. And now I have Nexaplon, a birth control that gets inserted into your upper arm. I was told it lasts 3 years. Cut to my now fiance, who's 27, told me he wants a baby. I said I did too, just not now, and that I'd get my Nexaplon out after the 3 years are up, and I won't replace it. Well, this wasn't soon enough for him. He wanted me pregnant now. I stood firm and said, I'm not ready to have another baby. I want to be a little more stable, money-wise, and in general. Fiancé was mad and we got into a big argument. I brought up my son and told him my son sees him as a father figure, that we already have a child to take care of while my birth control runs its course. All of a sudden, he starts shouting at me, saying he wanted a baby that's biologically his, and that every time he looks at my son, he gets angry. I asked him why, and he told me it's because he sees my ex in my son. My son looks a lot like his father. He then went on to tell me he doesn't feel like a parental figure to my son. He has no personal attachment to him. He says it's because my son isn't biologically his, and he resents us for this. Hence the baby talk. He wanted my arm implant out immediately. I said no way. I'm not ready for another baby yet. We continue to argue about this until I'm finally tired and frustrated. So I say I'm done arguing and I just head to our bedroom. An important fact to know is that I take medication to sleep. A pretty strong medication with a high dosage. It knocks me flat on my arse. The Sandman comes and slaps me across the face, so I'm down for the count. After the argument, I take my pills and I go to bed. My fiancé was still in the living room when I fell into a deep sleep. Now, another important fact. My fiancé knows where my implant is. He felt it under my skin, as it's very noticeable when you're feeling around for it. I'm sleeping when I stir slightly awake after I felt fingers on my upper arm, prodding. With my eyes still shut, I tell my fiancé to stop poking me. I assumed he was just being petty and childish because of the fight. He doesn't stop, and not 5 seconds after poking me, he presses down in the exact spot my implant is. At this point, I'm starting to get more alert and annoyed. I just wanted to sleep, and I can't do that when I'm being jabbed. I open my eyes to see what the hell he's doing and ask why his fingers is pressing directly on my implant. The minute I open my eyes, I notice an object in his free hand. A box cutter, which was very close to my upper arm. Now I'm full on alert and ask him what the he's doing. He immediately looks guilty and tries to throw excuses at me.
I was just trying to scare you. I was checking to make sure you were alive, and it's a coincidence I'm holding a box cutter.
I called bullshit on every excuse and said I wanted the truth. He looked down and then told me he was doing me a favor. What favor? Glad you asked. He was going to remove it from my upper arm. He said he studied how to do it and he's confident he can safely remove it. He said, quote, "We can start expanding our family right now. No need to wait 8 more months." I am livid. I immediately shouted at him to get the away from me and don't touch me. He tries to talk to me, but I keep yelling he needs to leave. He can't stay at our house right now because he was admitted. He was just trying to cut into my arm, thus breaking my trust. Finally, he walked out of the bedroom, and 1 minute later, I heard the front door open, then close. It's been 3 hours and he still hasn't come back, and I don't know what to do when he does. I don't know where he can go. I love this man dearly, but I don't think I can forgive and forget for this. I don't know what to do, guys. Advice, please. Quick edit added at the end. I called my mother and she said I can stay with her, so I'm taking my son and leaving. I can't respond to every comment, but just for a few quick questions. He's never acted like this before. He's always been so gentle and kind to me and my son. The argument and then the box cutter is completely new. During the fight, I hoped he was just in the heat of the moment and saying shit he doesn't mean because, well, he's angry. I was hoping naively that he'd be back sweet and kind the next morning, apologizing for the hurtful comments and trying to overstep my boundaries. I honestly did not think he'd come at me with a box cutter. A lot of people are saying I should already know what to do, so I guess my "I don't know what to do" should be rephrased. Has anyone had anything remotely similar to this happening? I guess I might have also wanted reassurance that leaving is the best thing to do, instead of waiting for him to come home and trying to talk it out. I love this guy deeply, and it's just hard for me to put both pieces of the puzzle together. The sweet guy I knew and the awful guy I saw tonight. Well, considering this is one of the wildest stories I've read in a while, because I can't understand how an OP was thinking in her head that she was okay with staying and wanting to talk to him. She needs to get out of there now. He put her life in danger, and maybe her child's, by bringing a box cutter and trying to cut her arm open. Not to mention all the infection she could have got. It's just downright crazy, cruel, and a huge red flag. I can't wait to see this update as this story gets even crazier. If you're enjoying so far, smash that like button and let me know in the comment section if you've ever had a relationship that's anywhere close to this crazy. Essentially, my now ex-fiance did a complete 180 personality-wise. He was so sweet and loving to both me and my son, until we fought about having another baby last night. He said horrible things and I was tired of fighting, so I took my trazodone and went to bed. Woke up to him touching my arm, looking for my birth plant with a box cutter in his hand. Said he was doing me a favor, but I screamed at him to leave. I ended up leaving last night with my son to go to my mom's. I was confused, shocked, hurt, scared. I still am. At 7 this morning, my phone starts buzzing like crazy. Text messages, phone calls, voicemails, all from him, asking me where I went and when I'm coming home. I did not respond. I just don't even want to look at him or talk to him again. He called my mom while we were both sitting in the kitchen discussing everything. She asked me if I wanted her to answer it. I said I just did not want to talk to him. My mom ended up answering and my ex was yelling, sounding panicky. He said I left with my son last night out of the blue and he's worried. No mention of our fight. He asked when my mom last heard from me and she lied and said last night. He made a noise over the phone, like an angry sigh, like, ugh, and said he was going to keep searching. That he's worried something bad has happened or will happen to me and my son. When my mom hung up, she pulled me in for a hug. I guess I started crying and did not realize. She was still hugging me when she asked how I wanted to proceed, if I was done with him for good. I said I was, and she nodded and told me the first thing was to go to the police. Also, like a lot of you said. I did not have any proof about the box cutter situation. It would come down to my word versus his. If he had even nicked me a little, I'd have a case against him, but since he technically did not hurt me, the detective said he sees cases similar to mine thrown out all the time. The officer did bring up X parts and suggested I get one for both me and my son immediately. I went to the courthouse to get the paperwork filled out. I had to do detail as much as I could remember from last night. Every word, every action. My mom helped me and we got them turned in and moved on to the next step. Calling my landlord. I've been living in the same house for 2 years. The first year was a lease and now I pay month to month. Everything's in my name and most of the furniture is mine. I told my landlord what was briefly going on and that I was putting in my 30-day notice. My mom has a guest room and she's insisting I stay. After getting off the phone with him, I called the utilities and closed my account. Water, electric, gas, internet, etc. Next, my mother asked me what I wanted to do about my belongings. I told her I don't want to leave anything that's mine. All important papers, knickknacks, clothes, furniture, all of it. I just didn't know where to put it, so my mom suggested a storage unit. Once that was decided, we had to figure out when to start the move. Mom ended up calling my 2 brothers and they both agreed to help me move. I just had to give them a date and time. I told them definitely sometime this week, and my eldest brother suggested a police presence, just in case. Think it's called a civil standby? I don't know, but I agreed. By this point, it's getting late in the day, and I'm as drained as I can get. I just wanted to go curl up with my son and try to sort my thoughts out and just calm down. The county clerk ended up calling me, telling me the judge granted my ex parties. She told me that I need to come pick up paperwork which had the court date on it. She also mentioned ex-fiance would soon be served, and told me I don't have to see him again until we go to court. To make the paperwork into permanent restraints, she suggested I lawyer up. But I'm officially burnt out on today. I'll look into lawyers tomorrow, but tonight, after this update, it's a cuddle in bed with my son night. A couple things that I've seen repeated why I did not leave right when X started saying those awful things about my son. I honestly thought he did not mean them. He's told my son he loves him before. Part of it was also shock, I guess. I could not believe what I was hearing, and that I was hearing it from someone who I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. I did not think he truly had hatred in his heart, and it never crossed my mind that he would hurt me or my son. He's never even spanked my son. I just thought we needed a cooling off period, so I removed myself from the situation to take some medicine and sleep, naively thinking things would be better in the morning. People also questioned why I would even bother sticking around to try to talk things out. And that's a very valid question that I don't have a rational answer to. Part of me thought I was dreaming, I think, and the other part, the side of me, thinks that everything equates to being my fault. Like I was too mean during the fight, too stubborn to see things his way and try to understand his feelings. I don't know, it's late. Everything feels surreal, and I have this pit in my stomach that feels like dread. What if X shows up at my mom's house? I still haven't returned his messages or phone calls, and now he legally can't contact me. I've had two of my best friends call saying X called them. My younger brother, who I guess is always hated by X, but I didn't know that until today, said even he got a phone call. So far, everyone's saying they don't know anything, but I'm scared. I don't know. I'm sorry, just thought I'd update. So, many people offered great advice that I never think of myself. I've been kind of heavily relying on my mom to guide me through this and keep me and my son afloat. I've also have been given several things to read, which I'm absolutely going to when I have some downtime. I appreciate every comment from extremely helpful, and the well wishes, and even the ones questioning the validity of this. To be honest, it's a horrible cliche, but if it wasn't happening to me, I probably wouldn't jump to believing either. Sometimes I let my emotions get the best of me, and I end up sounding either very cynical in my typing, or very unnecessarily dramatic. So I get the mistrust. My update last night was written late. I was exhausted. But I wanted to let the people from my original post know. I took their advice and got out of there. My emotions have been so conflicting and chaotic. I'm surprised I was able to sound coherent, let alone like a teenager writing fanfic. I wish this was fanfic. I could feel safe again. My mom has been an absolute angel, and I've shown her some of your comments, and complimenting her. She definitely deserves it. Never once did she make me feel that I could not be completely honest with her. She's reopened her house to me even though I moved out years ago. She's really kept the ball rolling on everything with her organization skills. She made a list, and yesterday we followed that list to the letter. When I wanted to put Steph off, she gently reminded me of what could happen if I waited. X could find me, hurt my son, or anything helping to protect me. You're all very right, and I'm ashamed to say I did not realize just how much support I have, and what a tremendous family I have. A couple of people mentioned to be careful if X finds out where I'm at, and my mom and brother already have a plan for this. They called it round robining. If X found me at mom's, I'd flee to eldest brother. If he found me at eldest brother, I'd temporarily stay with my younger brother. Really, I appreciate you all commenting that I'm doing things right, and quick, and how impressive it is. But that's not my doing at all. It's my family. They're the extraordinary ones. Some of the comments that question my validity remarked that it was odd I immediately went here to see how the people feel. Well, you're right. That is unusual, but not for me. I grew up when LiveJournal was a big thing. Writing just helps me organize my thoughts, and I figured this community would help me understand. And I was right. Another thing I wanted to address is X's sudden change. I'm now wondering what to do for that. I don't want him in my life at all, but some of you mentioned a brain tumor or a psychotic break, so I am kind of worried. I sent X's mother a message this morning saying I broke off the engagement and left, but both messages are still unread. I don't know what to say to them. In regards to X's health, will they be mad for me daring to say this might be a breakdown? Will they actually take him to get test run? And if they even tried, would he go willingly? I don't know. I guess I need a little more advice about how to approach that. There's more to address, and I even had a consultation with a lawyer today. But I can go into that another time. I'm still in the process of everything. It still doesn't feel real. It feels like a badly written teenage fanfic, to be honest. I don't know. Sorry for the rambling again, guys. I just wanted to let you know I'm taking notes from your helpful suggestions. I'm not ignoring you guys. My mother took my son for ice cream and let me stay behind, which is why I decided to hop on here and check on the updates. Hey guys, Mr. Reddito here. So this story is not completely over yet. When I thought the posts were done, I kept scrolling down and I actually found something from OP. It's another complete update which tells us what the X thought when the papers were served. So let's jump right into that update right now. When my ex was served his papers, he did not take it very well. I'd already blocked him on everything, but he took a picture of his paper and posted it on Facebook, with a message to me and my son. A mutual friend saw it and screenshotted it to let me know. After taking advice, I called the police to see if it was a break in the restraining order. They made note of the incident report and told me I could pick it up the next day at the police station. They didn't arrest him. My mother had already procured me a great lawyer. Quote, a shark, which is what we need, in her own words. I told my lawyer about the screenshot and he immediately put in both his appearances on my behalf and a motion for contempt of court for breaking the X part and threatening me and my son. Our original official court date isn't until next week, but the judge got us in early to deal with the screenshot. X showed up without a lawyer and I showed up with my lawyer. Due to COVID, no extra people allowed in the courtroom. I really wanted my mom there with me, but my lawyer, instead of sitting on the bench at the side, reserved for the lawyers, sat right by me, kept himself between me and my ex at all times. A bailiff was there as well. I guess it's standard procedure to have one in the court. My lawyer advised me to let him do all the talking, only answer questions when directed at me and answer them as succinctly as possible. Judge ended up giving X a warning, saying if even he mentions me or my son, he'd put him in jail 24 hours for every incident until the official court date. X was also ordered to pay me legal fees for the emergency session. Friday, we got mine and my son's possessions out of the house, with massive help from friends and family. I knew X had to work Friday and we arrived, with a police officer just in case, an hour after X should have been at work. We left anything that he could claim as his or that we'd brought together. I just didn't care about it anymore. Most of the items went into 2 different storage units, from the same place. The reason we chose these storage units is that they're gated and locked at night. The items me and my son would need for every day went to my mom's. Ex-parents have opened my messages now but still not responded. Lawyers said we're still on for our official court date next week, and nobody has entered their appearance yet on my behalf of the ex, so we're unsure if he even has a lawyer. Lawyer told me it'd follow basically the same as the first hearing. It would be a general hearing with other people having filled their own X parts for the other people. No extras allowed in the room, face mask required. He'd keep X away from me. No talking unless answering questions. He's confident that the X's parts will become permanent restraining orders. But he warned me it's not as likely as in movies. The restraining orders will go for 1 year, unless a box is marked saying to reissue it every year. I marked the box. He also said for every year, X has the ability to appeal it, and we'd have to go to court all over again. For now, I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I'm kind of afraid because I've had people message me to tell me they've seen my post on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Some of you sleuths have been found that state I live in. I'm just hoping X doesn't find any of the posts and puts 2 and 2 together. I'm sorry I haven't responded to every comment or message. As this update is late, I've just been trying to keep my son's life as normal as possible. It breaks my heart when he asks when we're going to go home to Papa. He just knows we're having a long sleepover with his Mimi. He's loving his pets around, though. We weren't allowed to have animals at my house, so the fact that my mom has a dog and a couple cats, well, he's excited. I've warned his daycare about my ex. Most of my family and friends are aware there's a serious situation, but no details. I don't know. It's been a long week. I'm exhausted. I keep looking over my shoulder, and I've made my mom buy extra locks for the doors. Some have mentioned cameras for the outside, and my mom has already started pricing some. She said her sister, who's my aunt, has been trying to get her to try Ring for months. So, this is the kick in the pants she needed. Well, this turned out best case scenario, I do believe, at least at this moment. I'm glad OP had such a support team behind her, especially her family. Let me know what you guys think of the update. I'm so glad that OP realized she has to get away from this monster. I hope everyone enjoyed the content today. Remember, subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. It's cool to be kind. Have a great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.